Hey everybody, it's Dr. Marcus Chacos with 𝐴uthor and today I want to talk with you about one of my favourite principles, the IAED formula. And this is an incredible writing formula that is going to transform how you perceive writing, how you perceive your patients, and how you make greater impact. So what does it stand for? Inspiration, aspiration, education, and transformation. Every book should embody these principles, and when it does, it certainly lends itself to becoming a more likely bestseller. Now, there's a lot more to do to become a bestseller, but odds are if it doesn't have these elements, it's going to be a really hard push to get it there. So let's talk about these 4 principles. It's going to be a slightly longer video, so I want to prepare you, dig in. This is probably only going to be about 7 or so minutes, but most of my videos I try to make short and punch you to the point. This is still going to be short and punchy to the point, but we've got a lot to cover, so let's dive deep in. When you write a book, you want to inspire your reader from page 1. You want to share with them a compelling story as to why reading this book is going to add meaning to their life, add value to their health, and give them an impact that makes that investment of time and money worthwhile. So let me tell you a story. Why am I sitting here and I'm in my practice and I've got a poster on this wall and I've got this beautiful picture behind me? Let me tell you a story about this picture. I had a client come in 9 years ago. Young child was having seizures. It was dramatically impacting her life. The parents were concerned for her. The child was losing parts of her, her life from just the impact from just having seizures, but missing school, but it was affecting her memory, her self-confidence, her esteem. It breaks my heart to think about the impact that people's life without chiropractic has. And the family come in, we begin adjusting this girl. We do some testing, and there's some things coming up. There's some question marks. Maybe there's something else happening here. So we recommend to send off for a scan. And the scan comes back that she has some very unusual genetic disorder. And in fact, the brain is actually switching down and closing down. And we continue to adjust her and support her. She has her specialist appointments and it works with her, the work she does with her, her neurosurgeon, a whole range of other people. But it is a rare genetic disorder. There are only 4 in Australia. I'm located in Australia. There are only 4 in all of Australia, and the outcomes of them, because of the nature of this condition, is so severe, so deleterious. The concern this family has for this child is horrific. So we adjust, we up our adjusting, she's on medication, there's a whole host of things happening. But ultimately, the outcome of this particular condition, as I said, is in some cases terminal. In all other cases is so neurodevelopmentally damaged as her ability to live a normal life is going to be, interrupted. So we adjust and we continue to adjust. We give the support. Finally it gets to the point, a couple of years later, she's still at school, she's doing well, she's coping and adapting between the adjustments and the medication. The seizures had lessened but still persisted, and finally the surgeon said, no, the brain is changing with this condition, we need to operate. Now, whether I would have made that decision, I can't comment. But this family made the decision. So they have this, a surgical procedure. They know that the outcomes of surgery is that the child is going to have, hemiparalysis. Half of the body is going to be paralyzed. The impact is going to be significant. And, not to expect much from this child for at least, 2 or 3 months after the surgical process. Certainly not much movement, not much function, not much communication. And then she comes out of the operation. The doctors go, the half of the brain was dead. We were surprised at the level and extent of this impact. She should not have been able to walk, let alone talk, based on what we saw within the brain. And she did amazing, in surgically we got some results that we weren't expecting from how she responded and adapted to the surgical process. So she's come out of the surgery great, but we can't believe what happened. No, in my mind I'm going, yeah, she's been adjusted, of course she's functioning and adapting differently to the level of impact and damage. Even though there is still damage there, we can respond positive to it. And then day 1, on her paralysed side of her body, she starts moving her finger. Now this is impossible. You can't move your finger on a paralyzed limb. And they, instead of being in hospital 2 to 3 months, she was in hospital 6 days, because by 6 days she was speaking. She didn't have full movement, but she had mobility and she had function and she had adaptability. The doctor said they'd never seen anything like this before. So she immediately got into her occupational therapy and rehabilitation. We got her back here adjusting. She accelerated in her development so rapidly they could not explain it. I thought I could explain it, but that's beyond the scope of today's conversation. And then something more traumatic happened in this young girl's life as she's growing and developing and improving, and she's coming here opening doors with her paralyzed hand, you know, stuff that's not meant to happening. And her grandmother gets terminally sick over in South Africa. And she, with her mother, flies out to South Africa. She comes back. It's in my room now, stays here in my room as a storyboard. She comes back and gives me this, and she says, you know, she came here when she was younger, she's now a teenager, and she says, I brought this back. And her mum says, she chose the painting. She paid with it with her own money. She got back here and got it framed to come here and present to you. And this little teenage girl says to me, I know that I would never have been able to see my grandmother before she passed away without you and without chiropractic, because the doctors told me I wouldn't be able to walk, I wouldn't be able to talk. I knew the risks of the surgery, but I was able to visit my grandmother. I would never have been able to leave the country in the state they had predicted for me. This is a gift to you to say thank you for all that you've done. That moves me. This painting stays here because it's changed somebody's life, but her story changed my life. You know what? I hope that story inspires you, because every book needs inspiration. It needs a message of hope to give them a sense of possibility. And imagine if somebody, some little girl with the same condition, saw this video, heard this story, knew of the possibilities. Maybe she could aspire to the same outcomes in her own life. Maybe she'd reach out to a chiropractor and say, let's get adjusted. Inspiration and aspiration. The inspiration is knowing a possibility. The aspire is setting the goal to achieve that possibility. But of course, we need to educate people along that journey. They need to understand the principles of chiropractic. They need to understand how chiropractic affects the brain and the nervous system. They need to integrate this into their life, and they need to be able to understand it and make choices, and make those choices change the way they behave, the way they act, that influences their health and their quality of life. So inspiration, aspiration plus education results in transformation. They need to know what it takes to create a new life, to create a new world, to experience a different outcome. And when you write a book with those principles embodied within its content, most of what you do will be education. Everything you say to the patient about what they need to do, the changes they need to make, what they need to understand about chiropractic, that's 80% of the education framework of a book. But the stories that you weave throughout, the goals that you set them, the hope of achieving something meaningful and valuable and an incredible outcome for their life, and then what it is you do that creates that transformation, the impact that you have, that brings together a model of incredible value. And when your book embodies and emboldens all of that, oh my gosh, it doesn't just become a bestseller, it becomes a life-changing, value-adding book. But that's exactly what we want you to do. We want you to write a best-selling book, a book that shares your message, that adds value and health to the lives of the reader and creates impact within your practice and the community. And when you have inspiration, aspiration, education and transformation as a model for creating the content, for sharing the message and delivering that impact, it will be a bestseller, and your practice will grow as a result of it in ways that you cannot possibly even imagine. And if you would like to know how to do that, then that's exactly what I'd like to teach you, so that you can write that best-selling book and have the support you need to do to dig those gems, to remember those stories and infuse your book with such purpose and passion and love and energy that it is inevitable that it'll be a book of transformation in people's lives, and I would love to help you do that. So reach out, and I want to be able to see you change lives as well.